the Weather Center, but he's been following these all morning. The big takeaway with a lot of this is how fast these storms are moving and how quickly and how easily a lot of these storms are seeing those 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts translate down to ground level.
Yeah, and I would highly stress to people, even though, you know, the line itself, for the most part, has been somewhat linear. We're starting to see a little bit better rotation with that one coming near Arcadia now. But we have severe thunderstorm warnings that stretch all the way from northern Arkansas all the way down to southeast Texas. All these line of thunderstorms are coming into starting to enter the viewing area now. We've already had reports of 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts out at Shreveport Airport. Wind gusts have been up between 40, 50 miles per hour. That was at Texarkana Airport. That was all morning long. And you just basically have a lot of warm, moist air getting allowed to funnel in, and it's kind of running into this frontal boundary. And really the main thing, what we've been more concerned about, is these threat for straight line winds as these storms take in that energy, and you can get 60, possibly even 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts. That's potential with straight line winds. And the problem with that, you know, a tornado, it doesn't, you know, yes, you're dangerous and you need to take it seriously, but the severe thunderstorm warnings need to be taken just as serious, because straight line winds can leave more of a broader aerial impact, more so than an actual tornado can. So the potential for power outages, it's definitely possible if we, you know, with these 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts that these storms, as radar is indicating, as they're kind of exiting the Shreveport area, now coming into our western viewing area, all of our western parishes, now from Lincoln, this has been issued with severe thunderstorm warning, now including Union Parish, Union County, Arkansas now includes severe thunderstorm warning. This is already past Magnolia, but it's now beginning to enter near El Dorado. So that's just severe thunderstorm warning threat. Now, of course, we're on air for this particular tornado warning, which is still a big area of interest, considering that it has a decent rotational signature, as indicated, looking at storm relative velocity.
And the other thing to take away from a lot of these, as these storms continue eastward, and Chase just alluded to it, is the line of thunderstorms capable of producing damaging wind gusts. We already have numerous reports of trees down and power lines down, and we've been watching the power outages across northeast Texas and western Louisiana. And while the line of storms itself won't produce a continuous line of 60-mile-an-hour winds, we're not talking a wall of 60-mile-an-hour winds moving through the area. That's not the case. But within that line, 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, if not stronger, will be possible. Again, keep in mind, eastward. I just want folks to basically treat these lines as severe thunderstorms that are producing 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, but basically take the same precautions you would for a tornado. Seek sturdy shelter, stay off the roads, avoid travel, those types of things as the line moves through. Because again, as we've been talking about for days now, this is an extremely dynamic storm system. Very strong winds at the surface and aloft. And if you already have 30 and 40-mile-an-hour winds at the surface, it doesn't take much for those 60-mile-an-hour winds just a few thousand feet up to translate down to the surface with some of these stronger thunderstorms. As Chase kind of drives the radar here, you can see that the Athens area, as this storm races off to the east and rather quickly, it is moving into a relatively rural section of Bienville and Claiborne parishes, specifically Claiborne Parish, and will eventually move into Lincoln and Union parishes as well, eventually downstream. Again, you can see Dubach over here, which is along 167, which is a good half hour away. But when you think about it in the grand scope of things too, how quickly this storm is moving, the fact that it could be bearing down on Dubach in a half hour, if not sooner, because of the fast motion of this storm. So with that latest radar scan, you can obviously see as these storms continue off to the east, still packing quite the wind punch along with it. And again, Chase is kind of driving the radar right now and looking at a lot of different radar modes, a reminder of the severe thunderstorm warnings that are also in place across the area.
I would definitely say that rotational signature has slightly weakened. It was a bit stronger just to the west of Athens. You had a good hard green and red mixture like together, so it was definitely good rotation. But now it's that red's almost gone. So looking like it's dying out potentially a little bit, but the wind threat itself still remains along this linear line here of thunderstorms. And of course, if anything does happen to bow out, that's going to be the greatest concern with these severe thunderstorms, when you have that bowing effect and you get that straight line wind potential. And that's going to be one of the biggest things that we're going to be concerned with, along with the potential for rotating embedded tornadoes along the main line. Hopefully it's, the tornadic threat doesn't, affiliate too much with this line. Hopefully it can stay linear. Of course, we've already had embedded rotation coming into northwest Louisiana, and it's definitely going to be possible still even when it enters our viewing area. And of course, going to be a lot that we're going to have to be watching, in particular with these particular storms.
Yeah, they've canceled the tornado warning as it gets updated, and you'll get the new update. The tornado warning continues for Claiborne Parish. Severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado 7 miles north of Gibbsland, 10 miles south of Homer, moving east at 50 miles per hour. And obviously, they highlight the Athens area as the primary area of concern in and around this storm. Again, into relatively rural southeastern sections of Claiborne Parish. For lack of a better term, and for lack of a lot of specifics, there's not a lot of highly populated areas outside of the Athens community, and so that's at least one little plus side. But obviously there's road networks and there's houses and neighborhoods and things of that nature along the way, and so if you're in the path of this storm, obviously you want to take those tornado precautions immediately. And as we mentioned, what those are, just interior portion of your home, away from windows and doors, put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. But again, just within the line of severe thunderstorm warnings, and Chase, those are expansive across the region. Most of the region, if you're in the path of this line, is under a severe thunderstorm warning.
Oh,
if you're within the path.
Yeah, from Camden to El Dorado, all the way down Highway 167, stretching from El Dorado down towards Ruston. You're not impacted yet, but you will be within the next, I would say, 15 minutes or so, and probably next 30 around Ruston, as these polygons that's been drawn out for severe thunderstorm warnings, they are very, very large. They are expansive. They stretch from northern Arkansas all the way down to southeast Texas. So again, all the radar is indicating these storms are producing at least 60 mile per hour wind gust, about quarter-size hail, about 1 inch in diameter. And so those are one of the main threats we're watching. And of course, anything rotating along with that. Doesn't look as though we have any type of particular supercells or nothing like that forming ahead of the main line. Hopefully it stays that way, and the only thing we got to deal with is this particular line of storms.
And Justin, in the control room, if we could switch back over to links 2 briefly, we can zoom back into this thunderstorm that's moving through the Athens area, the tornado warned storm. And as Chase pointed out, there's not a lot of favorable environment well ahead of the storms, so we're not really looking at supercellular potential, storms that are going to develop ahead of the main line. Most of what we're seeing in terms of what we call surface-based instability that helps fuel storms at ground level, the ones that produce tornadoes and the more significant damaging wind gusts in a lot of these events. That corridor of instability is immediately ahead of the line as it moves eastward, and so there's a chance that these storms kind of outrun that instability and kind of cut it off at some point through the day. But the general thought process is that winds are strong enough out of the south that we'll just continue to, immediately ahead of this line, just continue to fuel the storm instability just briefly, just for brief periods of time as these storms move through the region. We'll switch over to the live storm tracker Doppler radar here shortly as the storms start to approach closer to our area. They move away from the Shreveport radar and they move closer to ours. And looking at the velocities modes right now, as Chase mentioned, the last few radar swipes have not necessarily shown the appreciable rotation, but there's still definitely some damaging wind potential within this line as it continues to surge eastward. I'm going to switch over to the live storm tracker Doppler radar just for a different point of view. And another thing that should be taken into account with this line, we had this happen with the Shreveport storms well west of our area earlier today, but the the volatile nature of our atmosphere in terms of the wind speeds and the dynamics in the atmosphere that are in play today, I also want to urge folks that at times we'll have a tornado warning issued, but then maybe to the north or south of that circulation, the circulation kind of reforms and re-strengthens in a different area just outside the warning. So if you're within these tornado warnings or just immediately north or south, I would urge you to make sure that you're staying sheltered. And that's why we're just trying to warn folks well downstream of this line of storms that if you're in the path, be sheltered, avoid travel, get off the roads if you can, because again, when you take a broader look at this line and its entire scope, you're talking, as Chase just mentioned, severe thunderstorm warnings that stretch from the northern extents of our viewing area to the south and western extents of our viewing area, and all of this moving east. I really don't see a scenario where this line sees any kind of appreciable weakening as it moves through our area. The tornado risk will probably ebb and flow as we go through the day. We'll probably see some circulations that warrant tornado warnings, similar to the one that we just saw. Again, and this warning is still active until 10:45, so we've got another 20 minutes or so, but I would think, Chase, at this point that this storm may outrun the polygon at that point, just the fast nature, the fast moving nature of the storm.
Oh yeah, this morning, you know, we were expecting it to be starting as early as like 11-ish through lunchtime, but now it's not even 10:30 yet, and we've already got tornado warning right now, and they've already entering our viewing gear. So they have been fast moving. This cold front, it's moving pretty fast. So definitely need to be weather alert for the all the way through lunchtime into the early afternoon hours. That's when the storms will be kind of, I would say at that point, be crossing at least at the Highway 165 corridor and exiting off to the east near the Mississippi River. The good news is the one tornado warning that we have issued, it's showing signs of weakening a little bit. It's not as potent of area rotation that we saw earlier when it first got issued. So some good news with that, and really been looking at the main line right now, I guess you could say. It's about what we've been using to call this. There's not really any other areas of rotation. Like I said, hopefully it just remains that way. We're not seeing any type of supercell circulation ahead of it. You know, a lot of times you can get supercell develop ahead of a main line. Not really seeing that right now. It's just really this particular line where we're going to see the potential straight line wind threat. But really this one area near Arcadia. So they actually, so they just canceled that tornado warning. So we expected it to weaken, so they finally canceled that, and that was the only area of rotation that we could even see looking at radar for at least for our viewing area. Really,
it had evolved into a damaging wind threat. It started as a damaging wind threat. In fact, you know, when we were watching it on radar, and that's, you know, essentially what we do on these days is just sit and look at the radar for hours. And so when we were watching it, at first it looked like a damaging wind signature kind of bowed a little bit. Then it took kind of an embedded supercell structure a look within the line, and now it's kind of gusted back out. Line's kind of caught back up to it. But within this line, there's going to be little small inflow notches and little small, we call them kinks within the line, but just abnormalities, things that you look for possible tornadic activity. And so before we end our live coverage, and again, just a reminder for folks as you join us on Facebook Live and on our digital streams and on our live streams on television, that we'll join you for tornado warning coverage through the course of the day. We'll obviously continue to update you on our social media channels as this line of thunderstorms continues eastward. And as we go through the day, I really want to stress to folks that that if you're in the path of these storms, you get these severe thunderstorm warnings, make sure that you're staying sheltered, that you're avoiding travel. In fact, if we could, is there a way that we could, in one of our link systems, I think we're on two right now, maybe Chase on one, pull up the El Dorado tower cam, because this line of storms should be moving toward El Dorado relatively shortly.
Yeah, pulling up El Dorado camera here.
Still generally west of town. Okay, there it is. And so you can kind of see the sky starting to darken there in El Dorado, so just be aware of the storms that are headed into that area. So that's what's generally headed our direction, and just be aware of the storms as they continue off to the east in many of these areas. Again, we'll continue to watch these little small Before we go back, can we go back to Lynx 2 for a second? And I'm going to switch over to our live storm tracker Doppler radar. Before we wrap up coverage, and again, we usually stay on the air and do the live streams for tornado warnings. And so if a new tornado warning is issued, obviously we may be hopping off and on live streams pretty frequently through the day. But I really just wanted to stop before we got there, and I know that there's just a severe thunderstorm warning.
I see what you're looking at there, and I'm looking at
this
velocity
area
right now.
Right
yeah,
here.
It's starting to show some signs of rotation right now.
So let's just kind of hold things where we are for the time being. I really don't. The last thing I want to do is shut down all of our coverage and cancel all live streams and send you back to programming and then hop right back on 5 minutes later when a new tornado warning is issued. This is an area that we'll obviously continue to closely monitor. New radar swipe comes in, and yeah, there's still just this area right here. I want to go ahead and switch back over to our normal radar mode, and that's what it looks like on the live storm tracker Doppler radar. This is in far eastern reaches of Claiborne Parish, moving into northwestern sections of Lincoln Parish. You can see Dubach and then Ruston and Grambling and Shudrint. The I-20 corridor is here at the bottom of the screen. 167 is being blocked by that box right there. So here's Highway 167. And so again, since we're kind of in the middle of the day and weather's obviously a pretty big weather headline, we're probably just going to hang with us for just a few more minutes at least. As we monitor that particular area and as this line of storms approaches El Dorado. While we have a moment, I just want to also stress to folks as the rotation looks to kind of start ramping back up even on Shreveport's radar, I want to urge to folks that while you have some time, this line of storms has a history of producing power outages and some pretty significant wind damage at times. So this is your time to charge your mobile devices, charge cellular devices, charge your cell phone, things that you may need in the event that you lose power. Because again, as this line of storms moves through, pretty much anybody can see a 60-mile-an-hour wind gust relatively easily as we go through the daytime hours today. Again, biggest point of concern within this line of severe thunderstorms as they continue to advance off to the east is this area that's approaching Bernice and Dubach along 167. When I say approaching, it's still probably about 15 to 20 minutes away. Well, let's say 10 to 15 minutes away. These storms are moving off to the east relatively quickly. But within this line, there's just this little area here. It's not tornado warned currently, but it is an area that it's kind of evolved from an earlier tornado warning that was off to the west. And as we continue to watch this, and live storm tracker Doppler radar, the benefit of it is we get a new swipe every 60 seconds. So every time the radar makes a new turn, we get a new look, and there's this area that I continue to talk about right here as a point of concern. And I'm just going to zoom in super close. There's the Crossroads community, there's the Mount Zion community, here's the Corinth community. Dubach is back behind me, and 167's on the far right-hand side of your screen, and you can see the Sharon community as well. This is the area that we're watching, and again, does not have a tornado warning with it currently, and that's not a criticism. It's just the fact. And this storm did have a tornado warning with it earlier as it moved off to the east, and our radar is calibrating, so we'll switch over to Shreveport radar and still, again, watching this area right here.
It's kind of just a weak area rotation right now. There's not been anything new as far as Shreveport's putting out about it. I know they're definitely watching it just as we are. Hopefully it doesn't come to anything. And this is still kind of part of that same rotating area that came out near Athens and near the Arcadia area.
It's that same little segment, and I know, again, I'm kind of bouncing back and forth between a lot of different radar products just to kind of see what we see. And again, a reminder that severe thunderstorm warnings are also kind of coming and going. We just had one drop off the screen for that expired at 10:30, but I would generally expect as we mentioned earlier, essentially just a wall of strong to severe thunderstorms moving through the region. So, all right, at this time we will go ahead and end our live coverage on television and our live stream digitally. Obviously, we will continue to keep you updated with radar updates and smaller, more brief updates as we go through the day. But obviously, additional tornado warnings and severe weather alerts that need to be passed along on air, we will certainly do that as well. Stay tuned to NBC 10 and Fox 14. We'll keep you updated with the latest.